to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. This is our second sponsored show for High Point Market. This show is sponsored by my friends at Century Furniture and features the design team from Carrier and Company Interiors, located here in New York City. Century Furniture is one of the world's largest privately owned manufacturers of high-end residential furniture. Founded in Hickory, North Carolina in 1947 by Harley F. Shuford Sr., Century is now in the third generation of family ownership and operation and remains committed to the founder's ideal to create furniture of such impeccable quality that it brings joy not only to the people who own it, but also to the craftspeople who build it. Century is recognized in the industry as a design leader, ranked in the forefront for its expertise in finishing and the many details of fine craftsmanship. Its broad line of wood and upholstered furniture consists of bedroom, dining, and occasional collections in traditional, transitional, and contemporary styling. They have licensed collections with numerous high-end designers, including Thomas O'Brien, Charlotte Moss, Bunny Williams, Bob Timberlake, Candace Olson, and Windsor Smith. The company has an extensive case goods facility with state-of-the-art woodworking capabilities and a sophisticated finishing operation, as well as 3 upholstery factories, all located in Hickory, North Carolina. Century's domestic operations have always been a vital piece of its business strategy, using the skill and flexibility of its facilities to provide personalized and timely product to you, its valued customers. Today's Century family consists of over 900 associates with a management team conditioned for growth, continually investing in product design, customer service, technology, and its people. Century Furniture is meeting the challenges of today while planning for the opportunities of the future. And now, Jesse Carrier and Mara Miller, the principals of Carrier and Company Interiors, a husband and wife interior design team, are the newest designer collaborators with Century Furniture. Today, as we talk to Jesse and Mara, we will learn how they met at FIT, and from there, each spent the next 10 years working with some of the most esteemed interior design firms in New York City. Since opening their firm together, they have been named to the prestigious Architectural Digest AD 100 and the Elle Decor A-List. They've also earned accolades from the world's most prestigious publications, including Architectural Digest, Vogue, Town and Country, Elle Decor, House Beautiful, Luxe Interiors and Design, Oprah, and World of Interiors. Their best-selling book, Carrier and Company, Positively Chic Interiors from Vendome Press, offers glimpses of the private spaces of influential tastemakers in the fields of fashion and media, featuring the homes of Anna Wintour, editor-in-chief of Vogue and artistic director of Condé Nast, along with Golden Globe award-winning actress Jessica Chastain and fashion designer Jason Wu, among others. All the interiors presented in Carrier and Company are characteristically imbued with the personality and style of their owners, while showcasing Jesse and Mara's core dedication to decor that feels effortless, essential, and light in spirit. 2019 promises to be another exciting and dynamic year for the Carriers as they launched a comprehensive furniture collection with Century Furniture, which fortunately is the reason that brought them to me today and to you. Both Jesse and Mara are smart business owners, and today they share their insights and observations on what it takes to succeed in this industry. I'm sure you're going to enjoy meeting them. Hi, Jesse. Hi, Mara. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Good morning, Luann. Hi, how are you?
I'm great, and I'm looking forward to talking with you too. It's fun for me every day to talk to interior designers about their businesses and the things that they have accomplished and created. And then there are these other opportunities when all of us in the audience already knows who you are, knows of your firm, knows of your work and your body of work. And so there's that extra layer of excitement that attaches to an interview like this because we it's like we know you even though we don't, right? So I'm looking forward to pulling back the curtain on your business. Together, the two of you since 2005 have created a firm that has a roster of clients that anybody would be proud and happy to have, and a body of work that mirrors that same level of client. And today I want to pick it apart a little bit about how it happened, because I have to say, when I go around the country and I speak to interior designers that are looking to create a firm like yours, they're often looking for some secret sauce, some secret magic pill that's going to make it happen, that they rise up to this level of luxury design. And I'm curious because in my experience with interviewing these some 400 interior designers, it seems to me there is one ingredient that keeps popping up over and over again when we talk with iconic designers like yourself. And there might be others, and that's what I'm asking you, if you confirm this ingredient and if you have other thoughts on it. But it seems to me that the really super successful high-end luxury firms, the principals have worked for other successful iconic firms before they've opened their own firm. And so tell me about your experience, and do you feel that there's some truth in that for yourselves and for the colleagues that you know that are at your level?
I think we do. I think that is certainly our path and our history, and I think it's certainly part of the secret sauce. We feel that in addition to the degrees that we earned in interior design, that we really learned the most from having worked under some of the great masters. And I think that's really what we carry with us through our day-to-day process in our business today.
There's some of the firms that you've worked for are the Thomas O'Brien firm, Aero Studios, Jeffrey Billiber, Sills and Honeyford, Sarah Banger. I mean, these are, this is pedigree, right? I mean, these are some of the most renowned, most successful firms of our time. Tell us what it's like when you come out of your schooling at FIT and you go to work for firms like this. How is it different? Why is it valuable? What are the things that make it? So what did you take with you? I guess that's part of the question.
Well, I think for both Jesse and I, we transferred to FIT. So we had it was taking us more than 4 years to get our degree, because FIT is a technical college, so they really don't need liberal arts. So you kind of start over if you transfer to FIT. And I made the decision that if I was going to spend 2 extra years in school, I was going to come out of it really in a position to be hired well. So I immediately started interning. I got an internship at Modern Bride magazine. I worked for another stylist, and I worked for a local interior designer in Westchester County where I was raised. And so I was just really intent on exposure. And I did that while I was a student at FIT, and that enabled me by my senior year of FIT. I had an internship at Eichen Kligerman Architects. So that was my first kind of foray into that top tier office. And I guess I was just always prepping for that. I wanted to know how to make purchase orders, so basically I could come to them as an intern with a skill set where I didn't. So at first they had me cleaning out closets and organizing, supplies. And then once they let me do some work and they realized I was capable, they let me do more and more and more. And that was kind of my plan, just to be well prepared and get opportunities. And then when that internship came to an end, they were incredibly supportive of me. And then I had referrals, and it was really helpful for me trying to land my next job, which was at Sills Hunterford.
Okay. Go ahead.
And I would just add to that I think part of it is intention. So I think that we both knew early on that we were interested specifically in residential design. We had done our research, we pored over the magazines, and we felt connected to certain aesthetics and certain firms. And I can say for myself, I had my sort of top 10 list of designers that I admired, and those were the firms that I went after. I followed them, I studied their work, and my first internship was with Thomas O'Brien at Aero Studio, which turned into a full-time job upon graduation from FIT. That was sort of a dream come true for me, and from there I worked for Jeffrey Billhuber for 8 years, starting out as just sort of a project manager, junior designer, and sort of moved my way through the ranks and left as his creative director at the end of my career there. And all the while, sort of in between, graduating and internships and our various careers, Mara and I became involved first at FIT, dating, and at some point through our careers were married, and it was really upon the beginning of a family and the birth of our son that we decided to join forces and make a go of it. But even then, after all those years working in these top-tier firms, it was a bit of a leap of faith.
I want to pull back to a couple of things that you said, and I think it's interesting because, Mara, you said I was intent on exposure. I made a decision that I was going to be hired well. Jesse, you said the same thing, that, you knew the list. You had a top 10 list of your dream positions, and you were intent on understanding what that top 10 list was. You were intent on studying their work and understanding their culture, their aesthetic, and about their firms. Do you find that sometimes when you make hires, or not hires, because I'm sure they wouldn't get through your hiring process, but when you do interviews, that younger people coming out, do they sometimes miss the boat on that and feel like, hey, I've got my degree, I've done a year or two of internships, and I'm ready to be put to work. Don't put me in the closet organizing the supplies.
Well, we have a top-down hierarchy here where you're trained and mentored within the company, because you have to learn our processes, and what I feel like in a bigger story is like, we really feel like Jesse and I are very good at understanding and learning and distilling what our clients are about, what their aesthetic is, what their personality is, what their level of formality is. We figure that out very well. We're good listeners, and we're astute at, I guess we're good at observation as well. And we feel like we need our staff to learn what we do. So it's really, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you have to be able to learn how to work through our systems and through our vision. And I would say when we have an interview that's not going great, it's not even about, I'm so talented, I shouldn't, let me at it. Some of the worst interviews have kind of been like, well, I'm really into power walking. I would need to, it was that typical millennial thing where we couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it.
It generally starts with, well, what are the benefits packages? How many days off will I have? Do I have to work after? And those are the sort of telling moments when you realize,
I'm very good at art.
Have no work ethic or interest really in what we do.
They're impressed with themselves, and they're built like, and I feel like that's the other. I feel very old, but I do have a problem with like the Instagram generation where everybody's brand building. I've had heart attacks when we're interviewing people and they have websites and interior design handles. And I think it feels to me like you're different than a doctor. Like if you come out of medical school and you can save somebody's life, you get to put doctor in front of your name. But if you come out of design school, I don't know if you should say Joe Blow interior designer until you have experience. Or if you want to come work for me, don't promote yourself as an independent designer.
Right. It's the
and I think that might be generational, where I don't get it.
The resumes that list them as their the principal of their their own firm.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you're telling me that you've had graduates come out of design school, put up a website, put up an Instagram, say that they're the principal of a firm and have not had any projects of their own under their belt, and they're applying to work for you as one of your juniors.
Correct. And that's not to say that might be something that's promoted by the school that they're coming from. They may be taught that in school to sort of, in addition to a resume,
this brand building world that we're in,
building a website and having this.
But it confuses
presence.
me.
But I would say to that degree and effort, I think the other part of the special sauce, some of the ingredient, is personality. Right? I feel like you're either a person who is willing to work hard and understand that. You're going to run a vacuum cleaner sometimes on a job site, and that's part of the design service. Certainly that's where we come from. We weren't shy about digging in and working hard. And I think that, there's a certain mindset, that's a certain personality, regardless of talent and taste. But yes, can you actually do the work? Are you invested in learning and being part of this culture?
Mm-hmm. So I think, just so that I feel like I'm clear for any of the emerging professional designers listening, I think what it is we say on the show all the time, figure out why you're doing something, figure out what your goal is. So if you are coming out of design school and your goal is to ultimately have a top tier firm such as yours, then I think we are both agreeing, and it has been borne out in interview after interview with me, that it's not only working, like you're saying, starting as a design student and doing intentional internships where you are intentionally gathering your skill set and honing the project management side of it and every other expertise you can get as an intern, but then to come out and try and get yourself a position at a top tier firm. And so if that's your goal, if you are 19 or 20 years old and that is your goal, then even if it is good advice from the design curriculum to open up a website and an Instagram, it's contrary is what you're saying. It's contradictory. You want a team player. You want somebody that wants to come and understands, right? Now, if somebody's goal, just to be clear, is I want to open up my own firm in my own city and I'm going to do my friends and neighbors first and graduate to the builders in town, awesome. Then yes, you do need to establish yourself as a principal and yada, yada. So there are two different ways to do this, but for our purposes today, we're talking about, pulling back the curtain on how do I not only work in a top tier firm, but how do I eventually create one? And so I love these things. It's like, and it was funny because I don't know how many years did you say, Jesse, that you worked for Arrow before you went to Jeffrey Billiber?
I was at Arrow for almost 3 years, if you include the internship, and then Jeffrey was 8, almost 9 years.
Right. But what I love is, you not only had your degree, you had done other internships. Now you do a 3-year internship. I'm sure you were specifically well prepared at that point for your next position. But you mentioned that you were a junior when you walked in. You didn't walk into Jeffrey's firm and say, I have tons of experience and I need to be a senior. You were a junior, right? You would boom, we start all over again, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. It was a ton of experience, but I think 3 years in the grander scheme of things is
nothing.
It's nothing.
Exactly. But
we're 20 plus years into this industry and we're still learning things.
Absolutely. But to Mara's point, with sometimes the perspective of a millennial, and I shouldn't even say the perspective of a millennial. I got news for you. 30 years ago, I interviewed people with the same darn perspective. You know what I'm saying? It's the perspective of 3 years feels like, on top of a 4-year degree, and in your case, a 6-year degree, feels like I've done this a long time. But the reality is, for us that have had businesses for many years, we recognize it's a blip, and it's the person who's going to succeed that also takes a moment to say, right, it feels like a body of expertise. It feels like a body of training, but puts the ego aside and says, this is an amazing opportunity here to work with a top tier firm. Just get in line and do what they ask you to do.
I would even say not even necessarily a top tier firm, but a firm.
Any firm.
Because it's like, why learn from your mistakes? If you put a shingle out the second you graduate, you are only going to learn from your own costly mistakes.
Right.
Why not go be trained and see how, and I always say, even when we have like an intern that we love, you need to go out and explore other firms to see how they run things, to see what it's like to work in a larger space, to see if you like having, like we wear a lot of hats. In a bigger firm, there's more structure. It's like this is your opportunity to learn about your own work style and about different opportunities.
Right. Because you're right. Like when you have a smaller firm, you have an 8-person firm, you are crossing over with duties. One day you're vacuuming and one day you're, meeting a contractor, and one day you're sourcing and one day you're floor planning, right? But in a bigger firm, it to your point, more structured. There's the department for project management. There's a department for this and the department for that, right?
Right. So again, I think it depends on personality. What suits you best? What's your work habit? Are you better in a sort of pigeonholed position where you're doing one thing daily? I think we thrive in an environment where we love that every day is, there's a different day, different problem, or just, every project we approach differently. And I think we thrive in that environment. And I think it terrifies other people when they're not doing a daily grind.
And we've also learned that we've had some employees who were so smart, so just great people, so smart, and they weren't thriving here. And we'd realize this multitasking is killing them, and it's not us and it's not them. And that's when I started to realize there really are different work styles, and that's why there's different corporate cultures and there's different office cultures, and it's great to explore it while you're building your career rather than I feel like don't have assumptions. Be open to learning about yourself, and it's not all negatives. It's not all positives, and it's not all negatives. Just learning. Right,
exactly. And to your point is spend 2 or 3 years at one firm and move to another firm, and
or 18 months if it's not the right fit.
Right, exactly.
Feel it out and keep going.
Right, exactly. And the truth is, we all have. Our strengths, our weaknesses. You could do the predictive index evaluator. We could do the Myers-Briggs. We do all need certain things. Some of us need the variety and need the constant challenge and the constant firefighting, and others need the stability and need the comfort of knowing that I come to my desk and I execute this every day with excellence, but this is what I'm going to do. And it's true. You really do need to sort of figure that out for yourself. And then also as business owners, it's important for us to recognize that in our staff, where they're happy and comfortable. And if your firm, to your point, Mara, doesn't allow for multiple people to have that close, stable environment type of a role, then they're not a great fit. And it's there's no love lost because they're not happy either, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is awesome. I think that and the truth is, even if someone's aspiration is not to be and to own a top tier firm, I think, Mara, you mentioned it as well. It pays off, even if you want to come back to your own suburb and be the most amazing interior designer in your community of 60,000 people. If you learn good business practices by people that are doing it and doing it successfully and have their systems locked down, you can go back and really, you're ahead of the game, right? You're ahead. It's like one further level of that education process.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And between the two of you, how do you feel about, so that's the perspective of looking at the designers coming in. We want them to be a go-getter. We want them to have been intentional about gathering their skill set and mastering different and whatever they can to that point. Are there other qualities that you look for when you hire that we could share with designers who are like, okay, I'm sold. I'm going to go try and get a job at a top tier firm?
Something that's been more relevant lately is there's so many really good interior design schools now, and people are really aware of interior design as a program where there were kind of slim pickings when we were in college. And we get interviews from a lot of people who changed careers, went back to school to do interior design. And we're starting to see that sometimes it seems like just a fantasy default. When something's not working out, they do this program because, interior design is fun. It's pretty pictures. It's beautiful. And we're starting to now dig a little deeper and see if there's really an artistic or art-based intention before the transfer. Like, what we've learned is that we really do need visual people, and that now there are so many people who are getting the degree, but they're really not necessarily visual.
Okay.
And so we've had our most successful designers when they also had an actual beautiful portfolio of artwork that they were making, or something else that showed us that they were artists who were moving into a business industry, kind of like we did.
Okay. So you're looking for that deeper level commitment to creating beauty, not just, I'm at a midlife and I've been doing this and that seems like a great idea. My sister-in-law's a designer. Let me be one too.
Right.
Okay.
Or that we used to get very excited because all of a sudden we were having access to people who had Ivy League degrees or had worked for major financial corporations. And we thought, oh my gosh, this is stellar. And then we slowly have come to realize we still need an artistic bend. There still has to be
someone with
a vision and sensitivity.
Okay, someone with a vision. I love that line. And so this doesn't mean that you can't just change careers. It doesn't mean that you can't come from finance. You're not putting anything, there's nothing negative about that, but the positive that you're looking for is that thread of the artistic and the vision, because for you and your firm and your hiring, that has proven to be a successful hire.
Right. And I think it also has to do probably just because we do keep a small office, so everybody, it's all hands on deck all the time.
Right. And so you need to be able to, even if someone's role is in project management, if you need an overlapping in approving a tile, they need to have a sense of color or whatever the calls for. Okay. And then just a couple of more questions about your firm. And then, of course, I want to talk about your furniture launch of a century. Tell us a little bit, as a husband and wife, how you manage projects. So does one of you take lead on every project? You have defined roles. Do you each execute your own projects and talk about comparing and questions at the breakfast table? How does that work for you guys?
I think, generally speaking, we share all projects, but we have different, frankly, different strengths in our roles within those projects. And I think the way that it typically works out is I do a lot of the travel for any projects that are out of town. I will deal with a lot of the projects that involve renovation, construction. I'll go to job site meetings. I'll meet with the architects and the builders. And I think, not to speak for Mara, but I think she's much more engaged in the process, in the schedules, and in organizing the staff and the teams and putting all the pieces together and making it a fluid process.
Okay. And Mara, let's just ask if you agree.
I sort of agree. I also do, I do like process, so I tend to take over jobs if I feel like the team isn't as fluid. I'm happy to write long emails, and I like kind of project managing. So generally, and ultimately Jesse drives much faster than I do. So the further away the project is, Jesse's going to go do those job site meetings because he can do it in a day without blinking an eye. So I stick closer to Manhattan. He does almost all the Hamptons work, and some of it might even be kind of, unfortunately, sex roles, where I think working with architects and GCs, Jesse being a man, it just seems like there's no interference. They take him seriously. They listen, and he's also very easygoing and pleasant. So I think he's good professionally as well. But so we kind of have a system. I was saying we always work aesthetically together on a project.
Process is shared.
The creative process is shared. Before any client meeting, we've both laid eyes on everything and edited each other's work if one person has. So sometimes it's just scheduling, and he might be at site meetings, so I'm doing the heavy lifting for a client presentation, and he'll come back and kind of edit my work. We like to have a second pair of eyes on everything. And then sometimes when we have repeat clients, it might be, at this point, Jesse's worked with one client for 3 projects over the course of a number of years. So they don't even need me.
Okay.
They kind of go for it. So sometimes that develops in and of itself, but most of the time it's a fairly cooperative work.
It sounds like that even though it might not be listed A to Z, this is, how we separate our duties, that you move around and understand where one is stronger and one has a strength in one area and one has a strength in the other area.
And also, I think, Luann, the other thing to bear in mind is that every project is different. There are different circumstances and different personalities and I think I think our work reflects that. I feel like we are not we don't have a stale expected aesthetic. I feel like there's not a stamp that looks like in my own personal view, I don't think there's a Carrier and Company look necessarily. I feel like we approach every project individually, and we, as Mara mentioned, I think we're very good listeners. We're very observational, and we tailor make these interiors to suit not just the client, but the architecture and the locale. So I feel like there's always a bevy of different personalities and circumstances that we react to. Really, I think it's kind of reactional. So, certain client personalities click better with one of us or the other, and sometimes it's as simple as that. And there's sort of a relationship that is forged, and so Mara will take the lead on some project where she really feels, there's a connection with the client for whatever reason, or with a location, or with a certain contractor. So it's really, I think we're just very open to, there's not a regimented way in which we roll out a project. We approach every project differently, and we're open to different roles.
And one last question on working together in the process and how you come to do it. Are there things that you can recall as learning lessons, hurdles, challenges when you maybe first started out and were in business together? Because you both came from very strong backgrounds. So you both are talented interior designers. It's not like, hey, one of us was, baking cookies for 10 years while the other one was working, or vice versa. So are there lessons that you can think of that maybe you would share with a potential designer team out there that's thinking about being married and having children together and having a design firm together?
It's a loaded question.
Don't do it.
A learning lesson. I think for me, and I don't know if this answers your question, but for me, I think it's so much about managing expectations. And I think that applies across the board within our personal relationship, within our business relationship, and with all of our clients and projects. It's always about being transparent. I think Mara would say communication is key. I'm often at fault for not being a great communicator. I think I may have mentioned I'm not a great teacher. I like to just sort of hunker down and get the job done, and I hope that people are observing and learning from what I do, but that's maybe how I learn, but that's not how everybody learns. But I think, it's really kind of managing expectations and just being transparent, and so that whatever it is, whether it's a project, whether it's just within the office, that it's there aren't any surprises, right? That's what we try to avoid in all of our work, is that nobody's surprised.
Well, do you know what I was thinking? was just that because we had actually been dating and been together since college, since we were studying interior design, and then we went through all of our internships and jobs together as a couple, and then even worked at companies after we were married. I don't remember starting the business I don't remember any real issues when we started our business, because we had been kind of helping each other for 10 years prior. So if I revised a budget and I thought I did the best job ever, I would show Jesse like the new column I added to the budget and why I thought it was so good. And I felt like we helped each other grow professionally. And we shared a lot over those 10 years. So maybe the transition to working together was a little more organic. And also we had a baby, and I think when we started working together, it was like, again, all hands on deck, and we did whatever we had to do to get the job done, because we knew that ultimately you have to have a happy client.
Yes.
And so if we were, whatever we had to do to make sure the client was happy and the project was running smoothly was A-okay. There wasn't really an issue of tasks or ego.
And I think that's
it was
something
survival,
that we
probably.
I think it's something that we remind ourselves of on a daily basis, that it's a business at the end of the day, as much as there's this fantasy of interior design being this fabulous institution where we're out to lunch and we're just going to showrooms and seeing these beautiful things. Like it's a service industry, and that's how we really approach all of our projects, is that we're here to service our clients, and we do whatever it takes to make sure that they are happy.
Yeah. We're working during their vacations and breaks. We're entering glamorous buildings through the freight elevator. Like it's a lot of work, and it's very humble, and it has glamorous moments, but it's task driven.
Right. It's work. It is a job. Let's be real. Right? I mean, it's a job that brings you joy and pleasure, and your finished product is something that I'm sure you have tremendous pride in, but your message and your point is you have to do the work. And I think it's awesome. And I think, Mara, I think your observation is right. You guys, even though you were getting paychecks from separate institutions, you were collaborating for 10 years. You were figuring out each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you were accustomed to seeking advice and critique and encouragement from each other all along. And so you just really transferred it into when you did the firm together. And to your point also, the baby comes along and the bills come along as far as opening a firm, and then it's just, okay, we're just going to get this done. we don't have time to worry about if we're happy about it or not. So, all right, tell me now about this collaboration with Century Furniture and this furniture line that the two of you are launching in spring 2019 at High Point. What is this something that you designed together? Is it something that you thought of and you pitched? Tell us about it.
This is a whole new chapter for Carrier and Company, and where do we begin? I think it's
a dream come true.
It's been a 2-year-long process. I think the idea of product has always been part of my model. As starting out with Thomas O'Brien and Aero Studio, I've always sort of loved that model of interior design and shop, which I think the shop part may not be so viable anymore in today's climate, but just the idea of having both design and product. And it was, I can't say that we...
Is it something that you guys have, like when Mara just said it's a dream come true, is it something from way back when you were students or at some point during that career said, wouldn't it be great to do this one day? Or is it something that more recently and you sit and you think, what's the next challenge for us? We've got this pretty well. What's next? How did it happen in that way?
I have to say our firm, we have been very lucky in that our firm has grown organically. We for all the intention we had as students and getting internships, I feel like we just felt lucky that we were doing what we love to do, and we were doing it with these kind of top tier clients, and we kind of were just pinching ourselves, and we were happy just to do the work. And there was a point where we started getting some really big interviews. And at the end of the interview, they'd say, "Oh, can we have your book?" And we would say, "We just showed you our portfolio." And we started to realize, oh, all the big kids had a book. What are we going to do about that? And we were then approached by Vendome. We were like, great, this sounds wonderful. So we did the book, and the book kind of led to the idea that we now had like a concrete brand, and that maybe with this concrete brand, we could explore other ways to express the brand. So it really wasn't, it did evolve, and I do think the book helped kind of encapsulate what we do. And then Century also just developed really organically, where there was a creative director at Century that saw our Kips Bay room and reached out to us. So it's been a very kind of lovely process, and I feel like it's a great company and a very good fit because they're also a family-run business, and they're very down to earth and very hardworking, but they also make really beautiful product. And then when we were brought down to meet the team and kind of see what was going on in the factories, we were blown away by the quality and craft and the facilities. So it's been a really exciting process, and the line has grown, I think, in this process as they got excited about it.
I think we started out with 20 or 25 pieces, and
we're
we're
over
up to
50.
over 50 pieces.
Wow. So the intention when the original invitation came and you started to discuss what it would look like, the expectation was that it would be a smaller line, and then the collaboration was a positive one, and probably the vision was there to justify more pieces.
Yes.
Wow.
And so the process has been also exciting for us I feel like what our interiors do, what we do well in our interiors is a lot of layering. We like to use textures and wall coverings, and it's a lot of patina. And we translated it into all these different pieces because we do high-low. We do formal, pretty things with more modern things. And we use a lot of different mixed materials. And we were able to, piece by piece, kind of, piece by piece, we translated our aesthetic into these pieces. And I love each piece, but I'm also excited because they stand alone, and I think designers will be able to pick from them and use them all differently. Like it won't feel like they're copying us.
Yes, I feel the collection is very reflective of our work in that it's a very organic mix of styles and materials that we've put together. And yes, I feel we're sort of looking at the catalog now, and every piece is kind of unique, and they all work well together, but they're just as strong on their own. And I think it's for Century a new take, because it's not we're not designing suites of furniture. I think what the appeal and the attraction was that we were able to bring a unique voice and create a collection of furniture that is very much about a mix.
So my question in there is, and I love that. I love that you said that designers can use it and not feel like they're copying the Carrier and Company look, that they can make it their own, that the pieces stand alone. So I love that you said that. But my question is I always go into like literally visualizing the work to do this. So when you say that, I love that you describe how first comes the process, then comes the internships, then comes your own company, then comes the top tier clients, then comes the book, and then comes the question, hey, would you guys be interested in designing a line with us? And Century approaches you. So here's where my brain goes, though. This isn't like the two of you have been scribbling furniture designs for 20 years on napkins. Somebody approaches you, you see the opportunity, you're talented, you're skilled, but what is it like to turn around and look at each other and go, how do we, or were you probably, okay, I just answered my own question. You were probably designing custom furniture for your projects all along and having them made as one-off pieces, and now you just sat and thought about your body of work and what were the lines and things and the details that you liked. Is that how that happens? A
little bit. I would say that there's certainly a number of pieces in the collection that are referential to projects that we've made custom pieces for. I think that we are also collectors by nature, and we have, piles and piles of images, photographs of furniture that we've coveted for the 20 years we've been doing this, and it was great to be able to sort of uncover those and bring those out of storage and sort of pour over them. And so it was a little bit of a walk down memory lane, but also just kind of like the process of putting the book together, which really encapsulated at the time, it was our sort of 10-year mark of business, and it was being able to look back on all of our projects over the course of those 10 years and sort of distilling what the essence of our brand and aesthetic really is. And I think we were able to then translate that into these individual pieces of furniture, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense. And how about the actual... So now you've got your inspiration images. Are we sitting with a glass of wine with each other? The kids are in bed, and okay, what would a sofa like? And you're sketching, and you're like, we've got it. Now move that there. Or are you doing that in collaboration with the artists at Century? How was that for you? What did that look like?
I'd say it was for the most part in-house, and it wasn't as organized as that. It was something. I have to say we did have images saved for years. Like after you talked about that, I realized we kind of had this in the back of our mind, or even just as ideas for clients. We've always had, We
never had that Marie Kondo moment where we would just hold on to those files of old prints. We go back to...
Or a detail that we thought was interesting.
We actually have printed photographs that as interns or early, young junior designers, when we would actually go shopping with a camera and then have to take the roll of film to the 1 hour Photoshop to have it printed so we could bring it back to the principals and review these options. But we still had like piles of pictures for posterity, and now we know why we kept them as long as we did. But so it was really just sort of combing through all those details, and yes, the designs we've sort of made for our clients, custom upholstery details, and just sort of looking at different details, like, we've always loved the idea of this leg. Wouldn't it look great on a modern sofa, and the shape of this arm? And so we were able to kind of piece together these new forms that are familiar, of course, and I think we are very much rooted and based in a sense of tradition, but I think we're bringing everything forward into the 21st century and making things feel fresh and new again. So you'll see there's some familiar forms, but with contemporary touches, and it's all I think it's a very nice blend and mix of our aesthetic, and I think it reflects us nicely.
And talk a little bit about, this is not for the meek of heart either to develop and design a furniture line, even if you have a partner as valuable and as prestigious and as committed as a company like Century is. I've had my dealings with Century as well, and they are just top shelf people. I 110% agree with you on the assessment of them. But you have to step away from your business now. You have projects, you have clients, and then I'm sure there are deadlines for designs and deadlines for production and having to go and look at prototypes and all of that stuff. So it's not something that is just all glamorous. It's hard work to develop a furniture line, especially 50-some pieces. Agree?
Agreed. It's been a long couple of years.
Yeah, because you have to do it almost like a side thing, right? Like you still have to pay the bills by doing your projects.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you
nailed it.
Okay. All right. Yes, Luann. Move on. Okay. So let's talk about the fun side.
I would say the one thing that was fun with Century and has been the most surprising, because we're still seeing the pieces roll out. The prototypes are just still getting ready for market. So every week we get some new images, and it's super exciting. But when we've made custom furniture, we're lucky enough to be in New York City, where we have workrooms. We have metal shops, gilders, lots of different custom workrooms. So we were used to kind of taking a taxi to Long Island City and seeing something in process. And here there was we needed a lot more trust in relationships because there's a team at Century that's making details happen sometimes overseas. And so that was maybe an exciting part of the learning curve, but like they've been a terrific partner. So it's been just exciting to see the breadth of their capabilities too.
Interesting.
And we would sort of adapt to that by actually, as we were developing the designs for these pieces, we would plot them full scale and pin them up all over our office, so you could see in 100, real scale what the headboard was going to look like and how the mattress related to it and where the pieces of hardware would fit in. And so it wasn't about a sketch. They were super highly detailed.
We were basically told drawings. The more complete and accurate our drawings were, the better the furniture would be.
Wow.
That was we listened.
And circling back to managing expectations, I have to say there have been really no surprises. All the pieces of furniture that are coming out of the factories and workrooms in North Carolina look exactly like we intended them to be.
Or better. I have to say, it's like, whew, thank
that's
God.
Awesome. How exciting. Because, look, Century's on the line, but you're on the line, right? This is, your name is going on this. We're all talking about it. Thousands of designers are listening. Even tens of thousands of designers are going to come to High Point in a couple of months and see them. And it's got to be a little crazy pants thinking about that, right?
Well, now that you mention it,
I know.
I wasn't nervous before now.
Okay. You hadn't thought about that part. No. So, and what's planned for High Point are you guys having a launch party? What's on the decks for that?
Yeah. So we are in the home stretch. We'll be launching in April at Spring Market. We will be there for the entire market. We'll be there a little before market to set up the showroom.
Right. The launch party's on Saturday. Is that the 6th?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. 6 to 8, 200 steel.
Okay, so 6 o'clock p.m.
Everyone's invited.
To 8 o'clock p.m. at the Century showroom. Is that right? Yes. Okay, on Saturday, April 6th. Okay, yeah. We are all going to be there. I'm just going to tell you right now, we're all coming.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I'm so happy for the two of you, and I'm so happy for all of us that we got to listen to you guys and talk to you about your projects. And I just, to recap a few things here, it just is really what we always say. It's on the show, we talk about make a decision. I think, Mara, it was one of the first things that you said. Like, you just spoke my love language right out the gate. I made a decision that I was going to be hired well. It was one of the first things you said. And then I love, too, Jesse, how you constantly are bringing up the idea of managing expectations. And I also really appreciate and value that you round that around to every relationship that we have as business people and as human beings, managing expectations with our family, with our business colleagues, with our employees, and with your collaborations with, wonderful companies like Century Furniture. I'm so grateful for you two to share your wisdom with us and your experience with us. And I wish you and Century the best with this launch. And I'm so looking forward to seeing it and to meeting you guys in real life in April.
Oh, thank you, Luann.
I know, us as well.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.